Hi, thank you so much for joining me today, Stephanie Rockey, your host of Real World Talk. I have a lot of exciting topics that I want to share with you today, so I'm just going to jump right in. And we're going to go over our first question, whereby the public, you viewers, go to hashtag #AskRockey on any social platform and ask me any question you want regarding business and relationships and spirituality. And so we're going to begin with our first question. And so I have them written in front of me. And so let's do what? The question is for business and wealth. Barry R. is asking me, how do you deal with technology anxiety when starting a business? So this is something that even myself goes through. Everyone goes through this because the technology today is growing and it's evolving and it is fast. Just when you thought you figured it all out and you found a platform that works, the next thing you know, the next best thing comes out. And guess what? That's not going to change. It's not going to change. So the real question you're asking me is, how do you deal with anxiety? And anxiety is anticipatory. Anxiety means that you are anticipating something to happen. And in the case of this question, Barry, what you're saying to me is, I know that technology is evolving, and I know that I'm going to have to learn technology, and I have a lot of anxiety about it. So what you have to tell yourself, because your brain is this processor, it really is. It's a huge processor, and it takes all the information of your thoughts and it processes it. And when you're telling your brain, oh, I'm really nervous about this and I know that I may have a difficult time with it, it's sending out signals to your body whereby you then become anxiety ridden. And anxiety is very real. People get panic attacks, they can't breathe, and it stops people from living the life that they want to live, starting the kind of business that they want to start, have a relationship that they want to have. And so you have to look at technology as really having a relationship with it, and give yourself the time to really study the platform, study the tools that are out there. And if you find one that works for you, know that it's going to evolve, know that you're going to have to change with it, but really accept it, because accepting it is key to lessening your anxiety, number one, and number two, knowing it's going to change is going to lessen your anxiety, number two, and number three, understanding that you have the ability, like everyone else, to learn the platform and get assistance on that platform if you have struggles with it. You know that if you think to yourself and you tell your brain, I'm smart and I'm going to be able to do this, you will not feel those feelings of, I can't do it. Oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. Don't tell yourself that. Acknowledge that you feel overwhelmed, because you're human and you're going to feel overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed all the time with the technology, even with the show. Okay, but I have to stop myself and say, okay, take step one, step two, step three, step four, and determine what they are. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is the only way that you're going to get through your anxiety, and it will then not prevent you from moving forward with your company. Because if it is such that you have an idea and you have a desire to move forward with it, you have to know you're going to feel some level of anxiety. That just goes with the territory. I mean, the reality is, if you didn't feel some anxiety, I would think something's wrong with you. So know that this is very normal, but don't let it disable you to the point where you're not even going to pursue it in any way. Just reach out and find help. On Google, you can Google anything and get a tutorial these days. So literally go on there and take your time and breathe. Give yourself the space and the know-how and the time to be able to look at it so that you are in a position where you're calm and you're able to process it and move forward. Okay? So Barry R., I hope that helped answer your question. I look forward to hearing from you again. So the next question is on relationships. And we have Barbara F., and she's asking me, how do you move from a social media relationship with a man to in person? Well, there's a lot of that today, isn't there? You got all the online dating sites, then you got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn. There's just so many ways of which you communicate with individuals. And a lot of people ask me this, when do you know when it's right that when you're communicating online to really bring up those questions as to whether or not are you single? Are you seeing someone? Would you like to get together? The only way to do that is you have to ask the questions. And there's so many people that are terrified to ask the questions because, again, that word anxiety I want to bring in comes in where they say, what happens if I ask the question and then he never speaks to me again? Well, online, you have to understand that everything is anonymous until you actually meet with that person and engage in a conversation with them. You cannot have any expectations other than the fact that this is a person that's communicating with me online and I'm discussing topics with this person. And until you actually meet, you really shouldn't move into deeper conversations with that person. Okay, because then you're setting yourself up. If you move to deeper conversations and you really give out personal, private information, you're really putting yourself in a vulnerable position because you really don't know who you're dealing with. And so the question then says, how do you move from social media relationship with a man in person? Well, that is a sequence of questions that you ask him and really have to look at it such where you're looking at the question in its reality. Is he saying to me that he's in a relationship or not? And really, you have to be direct. With men, you have to ask the specific questions. But you're not going to come right off the bat and ask that because you're developing a relationship. You're developing a friendship. And in a friendship, you don't come right out in the beginning and say, do you want to be my boyfriend? Okay, I had somebody ask my daughter that. I can't believe it. In that sense, it was, do you want to be my girlfriend? She didn't even know him. Okay, so you don't want to be like that. You want to be such where you're developing a friendship, you're having dialogues, you're not revealing too much of yourself, you're seeing the activities that he does in his life, the activities you do in your life, you're sharing business information potentially, if that's what it is, it's LinkedIn, and then as that progresses, if the relationship goes a little bit where it's starting to get more social in nature, at that point you can say, hey, do you want to meet up for a cup of coffee? And because I don't want to step on anyone's toes, if you're married, please let me know. Or if you're seeing someone, please let me know. You need to be that direct and you need to be that frank because then you are protecting yourself, you're protecting the person that you're talking with online, and you won't have to worry about any anxiety whatsoever. And not to mention, you can be having multiple conversations with different people, and the right one will, come to the surface. The right one will want to meet with you. So just be candid and really develop the friendship. And so where the friendship then can lead to something potentially where you meet in person. But really flush out those questions. Well, Barbara, don't be afraid to ask the specific questions. Ask those questions. Men are very literal, so ask the question. Okay, so Barbara, I hope that helped you. So now we're going to move on to the last question on spirituality. And Jackie E. is asking me, how do you know if you are living the purpose God intended for you? Well, that's kind of a hard one, isn't it? Because as in the earlier years, you may be interested in soccer, and then you may, be interested in the accounting field, and then decide you don't like that, and then all of a sudden you want to go to another field, and you're wondering, oh my gosh, I'm interested in all these topics, but I just don't really know what topic is the topic that I'm supposed to be living, my life for to really fulfill my mission with God. Well, God's kind of funny in a lot of ways in the sense where he has you interested in those topics because the accumulation together ultimately reaches you to the purpose that he's going to give you. So every single idea that comes in your brain and every single thought that comes in your brain and emotion that comes into your being is there because it's a stepping stone. And once you get into that place where I am here on the planet to make music, like Justin Bieber indicated, then that's what you're there for. And when you get to a point where you are so satisfied with what you are doing, that is your intention that God has given for you. that was his intent. That, because you're going to feel the feelings of fulfillment and happiness and love, and you're not going to be questioning yourself as to whether or not you're living his mission. So Jackie, you know, a lot of times living your purpose with God, you can have many purposes, but the ultimate purpose will give you nothing but peace, and you will feel content in your own skin with whoever is in your life, and you will feel that peace and joy and love and that feeling of blissfulness that nobody can take away from you, because that's God telling you you've arrived at the place that you're living the purpose I've intended for you. And that is the most extraordinary feeling of all, because once you own that and once you feel it, nobody can take that away from you. So, Jackie, I hoped that helped answer your question. And audiences, I'm so happy that you're here today, and I hope all of you have learned from these 3 questions that were asked. And so I'm looking forward to seeing you next week on Real World Talk online. And you can also go to StephanieRockey.com. And then again, just send your questions to me privately from StephanieRockey.com or #AskRockey. Until next week, we'll see you then.